I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championships.
The rivalries, it's up there on top of the list, man. And if we allow them to devalue it, we lose a lot of what makes college football special. Don't let them do it. Don't let them devalue what it means to you. And welcome to Juck on Bucks on a Monday. Appreciate you so much for joining me. A busy weekend here at Juckeyes Studios. I think we put out like 4 videos over the weekend. So go back and check those if you're not someone who watches during the weekend. A whole lot of extra content for you to check out. Did 2 shows with my buddy JR from the Big Ten Huddle. We got a stadium show. We got a breaking news show. And I did a 2-hour show with my buddy College Football with Sam that'll air on his channel. I'll let you know when that releases. It's not out yet. But a lot of stuff to go over today. Obviously, the Buckeyes add their 14th member of the class of 2026. We're going to talk about that today and the 2 other visitors who were in town over the weekend. A pretty light week, but we roll into this weekend, and it is just enormous. The way this weekend goes is pretty much going to shape how this class finishes. It's just loaded. So we'll get into that later on in the week. But we saw a commitment at the University of South Carolina over the weekend, which I think is going to be kind of a domino effect and help Ohio State. We'll talk about that, as well as, of course, the House settlement. And for those who haven't been keeping along with the House settlement or find it boring, I've kind of broken it down, I think, in a pretty concise way, focusing on how does it help Ohio State, how does it hurt Ohio State, and how is it for Ohio State's top competition? It's a net positive, in my opinion. So we'll get into that, as well as the potential pitfalls of the deal. We've also got some of your comments at the end. You guys have been really bringing it. I've saved a couple of my favorites, and we'll go over those. But let's start today with a little Juckeye recruiting news and the domino action I was talking about. We're heading down to South Carolina now. So South Carolina is on the up and up. They got a star quarterback in Lenora Sellers, Dylan Stewart, one of the best superstar edge rushers in the game. The kid's just, reaching a new level of fame, and he's excellent. Should have been a Buckeye. But they've been doing really good this cycle, and they are actually in the final 3 or 4 for 2 of Ohio State's top targets on the defensive line. Edge rusher Carter Meadows, one of the best edge rushers in the country, a pure edge rusher similar to Dylan Stewart. He's down to Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and South Carolina. Then you've got P.J. Dean. P.J. Dean is down to Georgia, South Carolina, and Ohio State. Now, P.J. Dean is not exclusively an edge rusher or a D tackle. He's more of a tweener. So is Aiden Harris. And Aiden Harris, who at one point was the number 1 or 2 defensive lineman in the country, was thought to be a heavy Buckeye lean. His twin brother, Andrew Harris, also kind of part of that in a package deal. He's a 3-star kid, a good football player, but Aiden's the prized recruit. And they never ended up scheduling an official visit at Ohio State. Well, over the weekend, the Harris twins committed to South Carolina. Many Ohio State fans who've not been really keeping up on recruiting were under the impression that the Buckeyes were still in the mix for the Harris twins, and there was a whole lot of negativity towards Larry Johnson about that. I was celebrating because even though Aiden Harris is, a top 5 defensive lineman in the country, it takes a good chunk of money to sign one of those guys. So South Carolina invested heavily in Aiden Harris. And Aiden Harris, while I don't think him committing to South Carolina affects Carter Meadows much, I view P.J. Dean and Aiden Harris, they are almost replicas of each other. They're identical. Guys that are versatile enough to play the 3-tech, the 5-tech. They're just so similar. And Aiden Harris committing to South Carolina effectively takes P.J. Dean off the board there. So P.J. Dean in South Carolina isn't happening, which means P.J. Dean now down to Ohio State and Georgia. He was just at Georgia. South Carolina did a good job on the official with him as well, but he comes up to Ohio State for his final official visit. Now, his weekend at Georgia, he was with defensive line coach Trey Scott, who's an incredible coach, really likable guy. Everybody loves him. And PJ had a great time with him. He's very comfortable with him. And his older brother went to Georgia, as we discussed. Did Georgia do enough? The answer, in my opinion, is no. PJ, who was in my mock class, I'm planting the flag here. I was a little concerned about South Carolina. They seem to be gaining some steam. After this news, PJ Dean will be a Buckeye. Now, when we talk about him and Aiden Harris, Aiden Harris was a Buckeye projection for a while. I'll take PJ Dean 10 times out of 10 over Aiden Harris because they are so similar, though I think PJ a little more of an explosive athlete. But listening to both of these guys talk just in an interview, Aiden Harris sounds like an 18-year-old, which is fine. He is. PJ Dean sounds like a Mecca Egbuka. He sounds like a 27-year-old. And that kind of dude seems to do really well in the Ohio State program. That kind of guy is also very drawn to the Ohio State program. And that's why I feel really confident that PJ Dean ends up a Buckeye. Let's talk about a guy who is officially ending up a Buckeye, and that is Favour Akih, 4-star, top 200 prospect in the country, the 14th ranked running back in the country. Favour Akih, 5'11", 190. He'll probably play at about 210, 215 when he gets a little bigger at Ohio State. But the number 2 running back in the state behind USC commit Sean Alston, and I think the Buckeyes made the right decision. Favour Akih is the more fit for the Buckeyes over Sean Alston, who went out to USC. Also a really good kid. I'll be rooting for him. But the Buckeyes beat out Miami and USC for Favour Akih. And Favour, dreaming of a Buckeye offer, it was, obviously the most obvious prediction ever that he was going to commit for his official visit weekend. And sure enough, he does. Favor's a stud, man. 10.9, 100 meter. So top speed, it's there, checks that box. He's not super shifty. He's not a jitterbug. He's more of a one-cut back, but he hits the hole 1,000 miles an hour. He's a pretty unique running back. Accelerates to top speed really fast, and it almost looks like he catches the defense sleeping. He just comes shot out of a cannon through the hole. You see a lot of attempted arm tackles, and he's powerful. He's more powerful than he looks. So I really like the commitment of Favour Akih. I really like the offer of Favour Akih. He's just a good, solid back that has a really high ceiling and a pretty high floor as well. So good stuff. And when we talk about the guys that the Buckeyes are still taking a swing at, Derek Cooper, Savion Hyder, Favour Akih is not going to dissuade either of them. So if either of them want to commit to Ohio State, like bringing in Favour Akih isn't going to make them say, oh, well, forget about it. But when we look at the running back room, and the Buckeyes will, they're still taking their swing at those two guys. I don't think they're going to wind up with either of them. We'll see. But if Favour is the only guy, and he will be if neither of those two commit, you look at the running back room next year, and your 1-2 punch, James Peoples and Bo Jackson. Third year James Peoples, second year Bo Jackson. I mean, that's pretty doggone good. Your other 3 down backs, Isaiah West, Favour Akih, and then you've got your guys who not quite sure what Turbo Rogers is going to be in this offense. Sam Williams-Dixon. Turbo Rogers is a guy that we saw last year in high school kind of play half the time in the slot, half the time in the running back. So be interesting to see how they plan to utilize him. I know he's kind of short, but he's not small. He's 190 pounds. Same weight as Favour Akih. So he's short, but he is very put together. Kid's legs look like a young Barry Sanders at times. Like, obviously he doesn't move like Barry Sanders, but he's a talented kid. He could potentially be a 3-down back, but I doubt it, but we'll see. Anyway, when we look at that running back room, there's not a lot of deficiencies there. I really like it. And whether or not you end up getting anything from Savion Hyder or Derek Cooper, if one of them's in the class, that'd be great. If both of them pass, I still love the way it looks. And I love how Ohio State is positioned for 2027 with number 1 back in the country, David Gabriel George, who I think the Buckeyes currently lead for. He's got some familial connections to Ohio State, and Carlos Lachlan has gotten in on him early. So good stuff there. Also a little Tennessee connection. He goes to school in Tennessee. Locke coached in Memphis. It just fits. I really like where they sit there. So that is where we're at running back. Now, at quarterback, we talked about this over the weekend, but top 25 quarterback in the country, Luke Fahey, who looks like he was the most plausible quarterback for the Buckeyes class in 2026, had been kind of leaning towards Indiana and Stanford. They were really high on his list. And when the Buckeyes offered, he immediately scheduled his official. And it seemed like, all right, man, of course this kid's going to want to go to Ohio State. And that's the way it was looking until Oregon got involved. So Oregon offered him a year ago. And Oregon obviously has been through the ringer with the quarterback in this class. They had Jonas Williams committed. He flipped to USC. Their fans arrogantly laughed. They were going to upgrade and get Jared Curtis. He picked Georgia. Well, now they've come around to Fahey after they've checked several off their board that they couldn't get. And Luke Fahey is going to go visit them during the week before his Ohio State official visit. So they offered him a year ago, but Fahey said they hadn't really been keeping contact, maybe once a week, which is very, very light contact when you want a quarterback. But they missed out on these other quarterbacks. Now they have a need. When we talk about Fahey, he's a West Coast kid. He has a game very similar to Dylan Gabriel. His style of play, Will Stein, he just feels like a Will Stein quarterback. Everything about that screams like a good fit. So Oregon definitely a threat to take Luke Fahey off the board for the Buckeyes. And at this point, if that happens, I think you're probably moving into 2027 and getting a second quarterback to pair with Brady Edmonds, because I don't think there's anything else here in 26 for you. And let's be honest, 2026, whoever was in this class at this point was never a guy that you were that was in the plans to be the starting quarterback. You're going from Tavian St. Clair to Brady Edmonds. That's the plan. Talked to Brady Edmonds about his hospital trip over the week. He was reluctant to even tell me. So he's been in town, camping at Ohio State, and going to the hospital, the children's hospital, making a donation. Just a salt of the earth kid. I mean, like, if that doesn't tell you he's so locked in with Ohio State that he would have signed yesterday, I don't know what does. But no need to worry about that. So he's in. Who else was in town over the weekend? Buckeyes got a visit from Drew Evers, offensive lineman from Flower Mound, Texas, 6'3.5", 280. And he is just barely outside the top 100. So very highly rated kid, a Texas A&M legacy, and Texas A&M high up on the board. One of his quotes about Ohio State made me wonder where he stands. Now, I kind of felt like this was a Buckeye lean. Tyler Bowen wants him as his center. Tyler Bowen's been on fire. His official visit quotes, I loved it. The feelings I got were a mixture of everything right. I spent loads of time with Coach Bowen, Coach Johnson, Coach Day. The visit absolutely helped them. All the coaches had the same message. We want you. The highlight of my visit, hearing and feeling how much they want me. Outside of the coaching staff, something else that caught his attention was how a school like Ohio State will boost his marketability in NIL. That caught my attention, said Drew, as well as how they can get a guy like me to the league. And finally, the staff made me feel fantastic, truly amazing. The coaches are making this whole decision so much harder. Now, when he says the coaches are making this whole decision so much harder at Ohio State, it could lead you to believe that he didn't come to Ohio State thinking they were his leader. Maybe Texas A&M was the leader and he came to Ohio State and now they're making the decision harder because he was leaning Ohio State. You could look into that, and that's what we do in recruiting. We look way into everything too much. But it sounds to me like maybe he tipped us off there unintentionally. Maybe Texas A&M was the leader. I don't know. He's in my mock class, but Texas A&M has done a damn good job, right? They beat us for Storm Miller, swept. He wasn't even like, they were not even a threat. And then boom, he picks Texas A&M. Jermaine Kinsler. Buckeyes were flirting with Jermaine Kinsler, trying to gain some ground there. Texas A&M comes in a weekend, introduces themselves, and then boom, he's committed to Texas A&M. So they're spending a ton of money. It certainly wouldn't surprise me if they kept a legacy home in Texas. So I'm not feeling so great about that anymore. And the final visit over the weekend, Emmanuel Ruffin, a 6'4", 290-pound defensive tackle, 4-star top 300 kid out of Bessemer, Alabama. Pretty darn good athlete for a kid that size. Now, 3 official visits for him, LSU and Alabama next. Buckeyes were first. He said he'll announce his top 5 soon, which is interesting. 3 officials scheduled. He's going to announce his top 5 soon. It doesn't sound like there was any huge momentum made here for the Buckeyes. And in a recruitment that always kind of felt like a long shot anyway for the Bessemer, Alabama kid, and the Buckeyes getting in a little late on that recruitment. I don't see a whole lot of movement there. USC, they get another cornerback in the class. Peyton Dyer, a guy that the Buckeyes tried to get in on. He commits to USC, who was already sitting with 3 cornerback commits in the class. 2 of them top 50 overall guys. One of those guys, Rock Hill. They're sitting with the number 1 class in the country. That has now swelled to 28 commits. They are publicly saying they want to go to 35. Out of those 28 kids, they got a total of 18 blue chip prospects. That is 4 stars and 5 stars. Can anybody catch them? Well, their per player average, 91.53. Ohio State's with 14 commits, 93.08. Ohio State with their class of 14 to USC's 28 has 12 blue chippers to USC's just 18. 2 5-stars in Ohio State's class, USC's 1. Definitely possible that the Buckeyes could catch them and pass them, which I would love to see. But Ohio State currently with the number 4 class in the country, as they have fallen behind Clemson over the past weekend. Clemson picked up a commitment from Carter Scruggs, who is an offensive lineman who came to Ohio State and straight up said, I don't like the coaches. He came to Ohio State for a camp, didn't like the coaches, and never came back. That was under Justin Fry. And Tyler Bowen tried to get back involved with him, but it didn't work, I guess. So he goes to Clemson. Now, I got to say, any kid that goes to Clemson, they're just a different breed, man. It's a different deal. Some people call it cult-like. Funny, they say the same thing about Texas A&M. I actually think Clemson is more, it's just different. Everything about it is different. And a kid that goes to Clemson, it's just like, all right, man, he wanted to go to Clemson. That's what it is. But the Buckeyes with the 3rd highest per player average ranking, behind LSU with 9 commitments and Alabama with 5. So they'll kind of peter down. Buckeyes class is looking really, really good. And Ohio State continues to now, I mean, it's kind of a cinch now that they are going to be in that top 5 again, where they have lived. It is so impressive. It is so nice to be a fan of a program that puts this much effort and energy into doing this and has this kind of clout to be able to put together top 5 class year in and year out, and being able to put together multiple top 5 classes in a row with the transfer portal is everywhere you need to be in contention for a national championship every single year with a quality coaching staff, which of course we have, led by the number 1 coach in college football. Now, 2 Buckeye commits at the podium in Columbus in the 100-meter track meet, and Jaden Ricketts finishes 4th in the 100 meters with a 10.76. Wind legal. Now, I didn't know this, but apparently you can catch a couple extra tenths of a second if the wind is at your back. I wouldn't have ever thought that in my life. But when they give us these times, sometimes they'll say it's not wind legal. Well, this is wind legal. So Jaden Ricketts, Buckeye wide receiver commit, 10.76. That was good for 4th. 10.76 is burning. That's smoking. Now, Tyreke Hill, for my money, the fastest wide receiver I've ever seen in the NFL. 10.44 in the 100 meter. That is just insane. Fastest wide receiver for my money that I've ever seen. And I don't know how tall he is. Maybe like 5'9", 5'10". He looks really small out there. I'll tell you who's not that small, though. And that is Jameer Brown. Jameer Brown, who won the 100 meter in this meet, 2027's number 1 wide receiver out of Wayne High School, a Buckeye commit, of course. He ran the win legal 100 meter in 10.36 seconds. That's right. Jameer Brown, bigger and faster than Tyreke Hill at 16 years old. Is that not disgusting? That's disgusting, dude. This kid, like, as crazy as JJ is, like physically and everything about him, work ethic, like Jameer Brown in a different way, just potentially might be just as crazy. It just in a totally different way. Totally different skill set, but the work ethic is the exact same. He's just a dog. Like, it's just head down and grind. Got Showtime tattooed on his arm with a block O. I love it. I love it so much. Who knows, man? Who knows what this could be, but it's going to be exciting because when we talk about that kind of speed, That is different. Like we talk about fast wide receivers all the time, the fastest guys in there. Like there's nobody in the class of 22, 23, 24, 25 that touches Jameer Brown. Like this is different type of speed. This is once every 10-year wide receiver speed in a 6-foot kid. Like it's just different. And could be something special. So I'd like to ask you to please like today's show. If you like today's show, please subscribe. Just helps me out, helps you find the shows easier. I don't bombard you with 20 clips of a 1-hour show into little 5-minute segments. And all right, so let's go over the House bill. And I did this show. It was an hour and 10 minutes long. I tried to parse it down. It still didn't work. So I redid my notes, the whole structure of this thing, to try to keep it way more simple than I had because I was just going off on different tangents. So we're going to hit the bullet points, the important ones, and most especially, how does this affect Ohio State and why is it awesome and we're really rooting for it? Because nobody in the country is better positioned with this new rules than Ohio State to benefit. And when we look at NIL, I mean, I know a lot of people look at Ohio State and be like, oh, they're an NIL behemoth. Like the truth is, Ohio State was a top 3 program in the country pre-NIL, during NIL, and will be after NIL. There are other programs who raised their profile from NIL, Texas, Tennessee, Miami, Oregon. Like they were able to take that next step through NIL. Ohio State's program, just as strong, not any weaker. It's the exact same because it's kind of invincible. But this particular thing right here, this one, I mean, like when we think of Oregon with NIL and the advantages they had with Nike when it was just free pay for play, Ohio State has that kind of advantage in this system. Like numero uno. There's only one other school that is up there with the advantage that Ohio State has in this system. We'll put it like that. So let's get to it. $20.5 million salary cap for all sports, and 16 million bucks roughly will go to football, 13 to 16. Now, 4 million goes to basketball, then some women's hoops, and then the remainder of the sports. Important to note, not everybody has to spend that 20.5. Not everybody has that 20.5 to spend. Of course, Ohio State will be spending that. That 20.5 is based off of taking everybody's athletic department revenue, averaging it, and then taking a percentage of that. So we know Ohio State number 1 in that department, which means that 20.5 is the smallest hit on Ohio State than anybody else in the country. So there's advantage number 1. All right. So we're paying the players. We got a salary cap. That's part 1. Part 2 is the effort to make NIL as it was intended. Was it to allow student athletes to capitalize on their true name, image, and likeness? And everybody knew what was going to happen with this thing. It was going to be fake nonsense to get kids to come to schools. And the people who pushed for it said, no, that's not going to happen. That's ridiculous. Of course, it was in short order that, and they've devised a way that they think is going to clean this up. And that is the clearinghouse I've been talking about for a long time now. If you've been watching, this has been something that I've been really looking forward to. So here's what it is in writing and in rules now. Now, every financial deal that any player signs outside of the school, if it's over $600, needs to go through the clearinghouse, which is now going to be called NIL Go. And this will be run by a company named Deloitte, who's been gearing up for this for a while. And they have been going through every deal they can get their hands on that's been signed from the start of NIL till now for several years and compiling a database. And they're breaking things down, how popular each player is, social media following, if it's a recruit, what's his ranking, just getting down into the nitty gritty to try to make this as accurate as possible. And an example of how this will theoretically work is, let's use Luke Waffle, Buckeye recruit Luke Waffle as an example. So let's say Luke Waffle commits and signs to Ohio State, and he wants to sign a deal with Wally Waffle Restaurants. And the terms of the deal are, he goes and does 3 restaurant autograph signings with the customers, takes pictures, 2 local television commercials for the company, 5 Instagram posts. And they've offered him $20,000 to do this. Now, Waffle probably submits this to Ohio State, and they submit it to NIL Go. And NIL Go has to now figure out how much is the deal worth. And they are going to spit this data out in one day. So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to look at the profile of Luke Waffle. Well, he's not been a college football player yet, but he's a top 100 player. What's his social media following? And they're going to go look for similar players first. Then they're going to look for similar deals. And they're going to spit out a number. Now, let's say that number's $20,000. They're going to submit that back to Ohio State and Waffle. All clear, good to go. What if they say it's only worth $10,000? Well, in that scenario, they have rejected the deal. They tell Ohio State, we've rejected the deal. $10,000 is the number. Ohio State and Luke Waffle have a couple of options at this point. There's one of three things that can happen here. So the first thing is the school can say, okay, Luke, here's what we're going to do. Go ahead and reorganize that deal with Wally Waffle. They're only going to pay you $10,000. You do whatever they asked you to do. We're going to pay you that other $10,000. In which case, that's going to take a hit on Ohio State's salary cap. So it's basically like they've just given him a $10,000 raise. Second scenario, Luke Waffle goes to Wally Waffle and says, listen, I'll do everything you asked me to do, but I can only get $10,000 to keep myself eligible. Okay. Resubmit the deal. Deal's good. The third thing is Luke can say, I'm going to try to deal with him. I'll redo the deal with Wally Waffle for $15,000 and I'll resubmit it and tell him why I think it's worth $15,000. Let's say in that instance, they approve it. Cool. You're good to go. But if they deny it and reject it, now it's been rejected a second time. And if it gets rejected a second time, it now goes to our enforcement arm, the CSC. New group, not the NCAA. The NCAA has a million different things. The CSC does not. Their specific task is to enforce the rules in this deal, and that's it. And that's great. That'll expedite the process for everything here. Now, the CSC has an appeals process, arbitration, third party, 45 days max. What are we going to do with Luke Waffle's deal here? And if he loses that arbitration and he accepts the deal anyway, now he's ineligible. Now, many have said, how are you going to tell Wally Waffle in this instance that they're not allowed to pay Luke Waffle whatever the hell they want, whatever they deem fit for his advertisement? They're not telling Wally Waffle anything. They're telling the player and the school, if he takes that money, he's going to be ineligible. Wally Waffle can pay him whatever they want. Now, who is the CSC? The CSC is not only going to enforce the rules for NIL, but for the salary cap. Schools can't go over $20.5 million. This group is going to be led by Brian Seeley. He was hired by the power conferences. He is a CEO of this CSC as an LLC. He's a former U.S. attorney, spent 10 years with Major League Baseball as the president of investigations and deputy general counsel. So sounds like his experience really translates to this odd thing here. But he's going to be the CEO to start out. Now, who else is involved in this? I don't know. It hasn't told us yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ross Bjork was involved in this because he was involved in the initial meetings with this. And he seems like the type of guy who really wants to be involved in this, and that's good. Now, this all sounds great. There are some pitfalls. We'll get to those last, but let's talk about how this affects Ohio State, specifically if it all works. So for starters, there is no limit as to how many deals an athlete can do. So if you're an athlete, you want the most high value deals you can get and the most possible deals that you can manage because you got to work for them. They're not free, fake deals anymore. You have obligations. Where are those deals concentrated most? Where are you going to find the most possible deals you can get to maximize your earning potential? Metropolitan areas. What is Columbus, Ohio? It is a major metropolitan area, a top 15 business city in the country. In addition to that, from the businessman standpoint, affiliation with Ohio State football is good for business. Ohio State not only owns Columbus, and every business in Columbus wants to be affiliated with Ohio State, it owns the entire state. I'm in Northeast Ohio. Everybody in Northeast Ohio, business-wise, wants to be involved with Ohio State. a state of 10 million people, the seventh most populous state in the country, with a rabid, passionate fan base, all for Ohio State. And deals struck with these athletes will not only be worth more than they are in most places because of the vast amount of fans, the number one fan base size-wise in the country, which means your advertisement is being well received by more people, which makes that deal worth more. But let's go back to our buddy Luke Waffle. How many deals is Luke Waffle, quantity-wise, going to be able to get in Penn State, in Happy Valley, Pennsylvania, versus Ohio State? A huge difference in marketability, the number of potential customers, the number of potential businesses to work with. Ohio State has already been networking with so many possible businesses to work with here, businesses that have supported them in the past, movers and shakers that they know are involved in business and putting the word out. If anybody wants to be involved with Ohio State and these players, let's go. We're getting everybody together. Set aside a portion of your advertising budget. I need deals for these student athletes. And the football players, they're going to work for all these deals. So from the business owner's standpoint, you're going to get what you pay for. Local car dealerships, small grocery store chains, gas stations, Wally Waffles. Like, there are few programs in the country that are positioned anywhere near how Ohio State's positioned for this. And I can speak very clearly as a business owner who's very familiar with two things: spending money on advertising and donating money to Ohio State NIL efforts. Now, why did I donate that money? Because I felt the need to do my part, because when it first started, it looked really bad for Ohio State. And I was infuriated by the way it felt that inferior programs were all of a sudden recruiting dudes like Ohio State recruits, talking crap about it and buying their way to it. It didn't feel good. So Ohio State needed to build a war chest, and I was happy to do it. Now, it didn't feel good. The entire thing felt shady, but I refused to not feel like I was at least helping. Now, how does it feel as a business owner now, working like this? What you're telling me I can do now is I can help the cause of Ohio State recruiting. Let's say my company spends roughly $100,000 on advertising a year, and I've been donating $35,000 a year to Ohio State NIL. And there's a lot of business owners in the state of Ohio who can tell you something similar to that. Well, we all just hit the jackpot, because now we get to continue to help with something we're passionate about. But instead of donating that $35,000 that we don't have any say on how it gets spent, we get to keep that $35,000 and instead just take that $100,000 in marketing and set aside $35,000 out of that and use it with Ohio State advertising, which are very effective marketing campaigns. And I guarantee you that this is something that is so enticing to so many business owners around the state of Ohio. It's like printing money, man. Being affiliated with Ohio State is printing money. The enticement to do this from the business owner's standpoint is huge. And let's not forget, in addition to that, when you move in circles like that, there are lots of perks and benefits and associations and VIP stuff. And Ohio State will play on all this stuff, getting together all the big advertise. Like, this is, you guys know how this goes, man. This is, there are a few places in the country with passion for anything like Ohioans are passionate about their Buckeyes. And this right here is way better than an NIL system for Ohio State. This is way better than an NIL system where it's just billionaires scratching checks and like, we were okay in that system. This system, the Buckeyes uniquely situated to be the most successful of anybody in the country. They check every single box here. And the best part is, the more deals these guys do, the more they go work with, like, the higher their profile gets. So if I'm talking to Luke Waffle, like, Luke, yeah, dude, you can go get this many. Let's say you can get the same amount of deals in Penn State. All right. When you do that at Ohio State, that social media following now doubles and triples. So every next deal you go get is worth so much more money. And by the time you get out of here, those deals you're making as a senior, they're enormous, and you can do as many as you can, as many as you want. So there are some other schools that are similarly situated. I would say Texas and Austin with the passion around there. Yeah, they're really, really uniquely situated, like Ohio State, to do really, really well in this system. There are some schools who have been doing well in this current NIL system that are not very well situated in this particular situation. A place that's really, really green, like Eugene. Portland supports the Ducks, but it's not going to be quite the same as any state with a lower population. Not going to be in great position here. Like Miami, the passion just isn't quite there. Other programs that have been doing well with NIL. Tennessee, I suspect they'll do pretty well. They'll do pretty well, similar to Ohio, with the amount of passion. And again, nobody's going to do like the Buckeyes in Texas, in my opinion. Like, it's just going to be all hands on deck, every business owner, and you actually get something. Like, so many people like me have just been donating this for nothing. Like, just for I want the Buckeyes to do good. Like, you get a ton in return, and it's all guaranteed to be fair market value. Like, it's fair market deals. So this is fantastic. I'm pumped about it. And the problem is there's a whole lot of people think this is all going to blow up, right? So there's a whole lot of people that think this is all going to blow up. Even the people who are excited about this and have supported this and came out and talked about what this exactly is. And they have said this is step number one. We need step number two, which is the antitrust exemption. Because currently college football, NCAA does not have an antitrust exemption, and it doesn't collectively bargain, which means you cannot artificially cap what these guys and girls can make. And essentially a salary cap of $20.5 million is doing that. And the NIL is doing that. So it's very likely that we see a school go over that salary cap, get in trouble with the CSC, and that goes to court. It's almost 100% likely that we see someone get a deal ruled, get ineligible from an NIL deal, and that goes to court. When that happens, these things are going to be logged up in court, take a long time, go up the ladder. I guess the question is, from now to then, can they make something happen? Do they have enough time here to make something happen, whether that be figuring out going down a collective bargaining road or getting the antitrust exemption? And will schools try to cooperate with the new system from now to then? It's going to be really interesting to see. I hope it works. If it works, again, not only is Ohio State situated really well, I think all in all, it would be a really good system if this was the system to put things back on an even playing field. And by even, that is the Buckeyes whoop everybody's ass. So there you go. Let's move on to our questions of the day. All right. David Stamp says, Ohio State fans aren't happy unless we're bitching about something. David, somewhat true. That's fair. That's somewhat true. But that is also the bad that you get with the great of super passionate. Super passion. That much passion brings out the best of the best and the worst of the worst, and everything in between. So when you see the complaining, you also see the love when things are good. And I would rather be part of a fan base that is incredibly passionate than so many of these fan bases I see out there, like Iowa, for instance. I talked about Iowa the other day, and what we're seeing with Kirk Ferentz to me just feels very, in the last 5 years, like it's heading down a Joe Paterno, Bobby Bowden type deal. He's 69 years old, and it just feels like he's going to hang on way longer than he has it. And when we're looking at programs like Indiana and Illinois, Indiana get to the playoffs, Illinois win 10 games with Brett Bielema walking in, Kurt Signetti, year one, getting them to the playoffs. And you look at Iowa and they're just satisfied going 7-5 and 8-4 every year. And I have so much more respect for the Iowa football program than I do for Indiana and Illinois, that it just seems to me like if you are okay with that, like whatever, I mean, okay. And apparently Iowa fans are, because they jumped all on me for saying that, it's time for this dude to move on before it turns into a Paterno or a Bobby Bowden situation. And they went ballistic on me. And I mean, it's an interesting day when I find out that I have more respect and expectation for what the Iowa program can be in this era than their own fans. So whatever, they're happy with it. Dude's been there 26 years. And personally, I hate that. I don't want any coach at Ohio State staying longer than 15 years. Like in college football, there is this tendency for coaches to turn into like these deities of programs. And it's all bad, man. It's all bad. And that's how you get a Bobby Bowden and a Joe Paterno situation. They turn into deities. And it's just a weird thing we've got in college football. Part of it I love. The college football coach, and I've talked about this before, like the college football coach is like no other coach in sports. The college football coach is revered. He is loved. He is respected in a different way than the NFL football coach. And you look at how it happened with his son, everything that went down with that. You look at the thing with Doug Lesmerises, like it just, everything about it feels like this is just not going good. Even though, yeah, they're winning games, they're 8-4, but are they ever going to get to the playoffs? Even in this new system? No. Like their ceiling is maxed out. And if they don't do it this year with a great quarterback coming in, always with a great defense, yes, always a solid team. But when they play a real contender, when they played Ohio State, what happened? They can hang for a little bit and then they just get smashed. And I think that they can do better. If Indiana can do it and Illinois can do it, Iowa can surely do it. They got a wonderful home stadium, great home field advantage. And it's just a program that I've always respected a lot. And I just find it weird when fans can't, when they latch on to coaches like that it just doesn't seem like there's any way for this to go but down at this point with Kirk Ferentz. I guess that's my main point. Yeah, it's still acceptable. It's still good. But is there any way for this to go up? Or is this going to go down? This is the year to really find out. They bring in the Heisman Trophy winner in FCS 2 years in a row. Let's see if that quarterback can change things for them. If not, if you can't make it happen with that, it's just whatever. Go ahead and be average. That's on you, Iowa fans. And let me tell you something. Iowa fans, much more vulgar than you might think. You might think they're sweet. They do the wave. They wave to the kids in the hospital. They weren't waving to me tonight. It was more of a one finger wave. All right, my buddy Dan, look at that handsome son of a gun. What if the 2029 Big Ten schedule includes Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, USC, Nebraska, Washington, Indiana, assuming they stay competitive? Now, interesting that he brings this up because the other day I was looking up. So we got 5 behemoths in the Big Ten now. You got your 3 blue bloods in Ohio State, Michigan, and USC. Then you got Penn State, a top 12 all-time program, 14 all-time program. In Oregon, a top 10 program in the last 25 years. So those are the 5 Big Ten behemoths. And I was looking up in 24 and in 25, how many teams in the Big Ten got saddled with playing 4 of those teams in 1 year? And the answer is 2 times out of 36 schedules. Washington in 2024, Northwestern in 2025. And it makes Jed Fish look even more impressive last year, right? So 2 times that's happened. And he's talking about, he's asking, what if? He's saying, would I still want to play a big out-of-conference game? I think that's what he's asking me. Or he's either saying that, or he's saying that's why Ohio State scheduled Navy. But Ohio State doesn't know the schedule yet, so that couldn't be it. So he must be asking me. Now, if we go to automatic qualifiers, let's say there's no play-in game, they go to automatic qualifiers, I would say absolutely it's more advantageous in that scenario to play that big out-of-conference game, because when you're looking at a tough conference slate like that, there's a decent chance you might not make it in the top 4, but you still are pretty good. You know, you might lose 3 of those games and be 6-3 in conference. And if you're 6-3 in conference, you're going to be fighting for an at-large bid. And if you're fighting for an at-large bid and you're 6-3 in conference, I don't want 3 cream puff wins on the schedule. I want to take my swing at a big dog, or at least a medium dog, not a Navy as the big dog, because 3 cream puffs, somebody who's fighting for that 1 or 2 at-large bids is probably going to have a big out-of-conference win, and you don't. So, yeah, I would say these are kind of coin flip things to me, but I usually am always going to lean towards I want to play the bigger out-of-conference game. Gabe says, it feels like Ohio State wants to have a gritty look as part of their identity, but we've passed that point and it's turning ugly. Shoe and the Woody need major upgrades. Yeah, no doubt about that. Shoe and the Woody do need major upgrades. Gritty is exactly how James Laurinaitis describes the Woody. The funny thing is, we still hear players say they love Ohio State's facilities. Like, I still hear recruits say it all the time. I don't know how these guys are going into Georgia and Bama and Auburn and Nebraska, in Texas, and their places are just like on such a different level. And they still say it about, in Oregon, they still say it about Ohio State. It's not like it's a dump. It's not a dump, but by comparison, those places feel like 5-star hotels. And Ohio State feels like, I don't know, man. I don't even know what to compare it to. It just doesn't feel like that. It feels totally different. But at the same time, it feels more real. You know what I mean? Like working in that 5-star hotel kind of facility. The stadium, on the other hand, I don't really dig grit to the stadium. I like historical beauty. Grit is not really the word I'm going for at the stadium. But yeah, I think you're right. Floppy years for me says, embrace the gray. A much nicer comment than the guy that told me I lost my man card. You believe this? Guy told me I tried Just for Men. I lost my man card. P. Berry says, do you listen to other content in 2x speed? Because I do. My wife says I'm talking 100 miles per hour. Great pod and go Bucks. Now, I had never considered this in my life until he said this. And I'm sitting here thinking, dude, there are so many podcasts I don't really want to listen to, but I want the information that might be in it. Like, let's say, I don't know, somebody does a top 10 quarterback list and I want to hear what's in it, right? But I don't really want to listen to the podcast. I just want to hear who he named. I could do that in 2x and motor right through that. My man here's a genius. Never even considered it. Does anybody listen to me in 2x? I'm curious to know. I know sometimes I can talk a little slow. Zach says, hey, Juck, a few shows back you said something about, hey, at least we have one freakazoid linebacker of our own in Arvell, and I was thinking, couldn't Sonny be considered a freakazoid too? Not coming at you at all, just wondering what you think, Juckmeister. Athletically, I think Sonny is a freak, for sure. But I don't think he plays with that athleticism that he shows in testing yet. I think we saw it come on a little more towards the end of the season. Similar to the criticisms of CJ Hicks when he was at linebacker. When we look at Arvell, when we look at Sonny, like Arvell is just an immediate reactor, like he's shot out of a gun. When he arrives and he hits someone, it's a violent encounter. Sonny's had a few of those, but generally doesn't look like that. And he's a little more of a heady player, which is both good. Like Arvell's style isn't perfect because you can get yourself out of position. But it seems like Sonny does not trigger quite like Arvell does. However, absolutely a freakazoid athlete for sure. And I think the more comfortable Sonny gets in the position, we will see him be able to play more and more like Arvell, which again, Arvell's gotten himself out of position a lot playing like that. But no, yeah, point taken. You're absolutely right. He is a freakazoid athlete for sure. Hello again, Juck. I've been watching your videos, but not commenting since last season. I did want to tell you this. I have a strong suspicion that Josh Pate or one of a few of his employees watches your show. Your name keeps coming up and Josh seems to pick up on your talking points quite a bit and shares them on his show. I take that as a huge compliment. I'm so happy for all your success. Keep up the great work. You have given Buckeye Nation a truly special voice that's respected well beyond Ohio's borders. Pate, you're on notice, buddy. You are on notice. We are on to you. My man, thank you so much. That's a fantastic compliment. I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate all you guys. I love doing the show, and I will continue to do it as long as I can. A pretty big, monumental week for me as the show. Look, if you'd have told me 16 months ago when I started the show that in a year and a half, you are going to have more YouTube subscribers than the show you started watching before you started the podcast, Bucknuts, like a behemoth OG show, I'd have told you were crazy. We just passed him this week, which is just like mind blowing to me. Love those guys over there, but it's just like, wow, that's crazy. So I appreciate you guys, man. You are the best. Love doing the show. And, I feel like it's getting better. I feel like it's continuing to get better. So I will keep on trying to get better and upgrade the tech and the presentation and everything I can do. And who knows where it'll take us. At any rate, we're having fun while we get there. So talk to you guys soon. Juck and Bucks out.